We are live. Hi, everyone. This is Daniel Knows. Welcome back. I'm trying a concurrent transmission here on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. It's been a while since I've done a live. And I want to start talking about what happened at Esxence. I'm not going to give you the down and dirty because I don't have time for that. But I would like to do my part in trying to popularize some of the discoveries there because it was immense. The event was absolutely insane. I was very hungry for it because last year I was supposed to speak and I got COVID positive the day of the event, and spent it all in my very, very, very fancy speaker hotel room. So as a result, this year I was trying to smell as much as possible. I was trying to contextualize as much as possible. I was trying to try to spot patterns because that's what I like to do and that's what I'm best at, I guess. On the floor, while I was taking notes, I was basically trying to take in and put out as much as I could while at the event. That being said, the impressions I came back with are that perfumery is growing, the market is maturing. We all know that. There's some exciting stuff happening in other geographies. That's fantastic. I'm going to say hi to people as they come in, and I can see them everywhere. Kolegul M. Dushan, I think you read it. Ninic from Serbia. Good evening. The Sentinel, Australia is with us. Tanya Poksu and Kitty and Isaac and Alexandra Baltestan joined. Welcome, everyone. There was a lot. It was equally painful to walk through clouds and clouds of, this time, not Ambrox or Ambroxolide or other things, and not Isoe and other stuff, but guayac, a lot of guayacol in the air. Everything hurt, everything burned. So it's quite a feat to try to visit stands of brands you don't know. It was quite a feat to identify the ones that are worth seeing, according to one's standards. I'm sure other people didn't have as many ontological and ethical and aesthetic problems as I had. So in short, it was quite intense, a little bit chaotic, and at some point you kind of like do this with your hands and you let it go. You try to get as much as you can in passing because no plans actually work. Juju Flow, welcome. Barati, welcome. Fresh basil leaves. Alan from Chihuahua, Mexico, welcome. Rakesh Anayonita, everyone. It's so nice to see you again. I missed this. I missed this a lot. Carlos, welcome. And yes, Sent of the Night from Dusan Ninic. Yarlan Mitsuko extract from the 1950s, because you know I love it. All right, so what did I get done? I managed to see the outsiders. I managed to see the intro houses. I managed to see the newcomers. And from the older comers, who I also know are good people, I managed to smell quite a bit, including quite a few fragrances nominated for the Art and Olfaction Awards. I'm going to start the series of reporting from Esxence with an intro house. And today we're talking about Nissaba. Here are a few reasons for which I picked it, but the one that you need to walk away, particularly if you own your own brand, or you're thinking about opening your brand, or you're managing a small brand, or you're indie anything, or you do things that you sell with your hands, with your mind, with your eyes, with your talents. If you walk away with anything after today, I want you to walk away with this. Go and read up on why concept is important. One of the major issues I found with Esxence is that a lot of the new brands trying to launch, trying to carve a market for themselves, trying to become noticeable, to stay memorable, to make sense in people's minds, did not have a concept. There was no concept to the house. When I say concept, I mean, what is your story about? As humans, we have this innate need to relate to something, particularly when we're dealing with purchases that have a very highly emotional component to the decision making. We don't treat toilet paper the same way as we treat perfumery, as we treat fashion, as we treat anything that's representative of who we feel or we know we are on the inside, or who we think the people expect us to be on the outside. That's why the decision to wear this versus that is usually a very emotionally driven decision. When that is in play, you have to have a story to provide a framework for these emotions to attach to. You have to provide the story to create a baseline so that people can measure whether or not something speaks to them, represents them, who they are, who they want to be, whatever, or not. You have to have a story. More than that, you have to have a story that is then told in the same voice with the same intention throughout all the actions you take as a brand. It has to be consistent. If you tell this story, but then you do something else, people are going to smell you out. They're going to think you're full of bullshit. If you only have the marketing, but you don't have the activity, the price structure, the whatever business practices to maintain that, you can say, I'm a natural, I sustain diversity and support whatever, all you want. Nobody's going to believe you. Authenticity is measured according to how well your story, your concept matches your actions. Whereas actions are easy to see and measure and critique, if you don't have a story to compare them against, nobody's going to give you 2 seconds. And the major issue with most of the new brands, and I walked through all of them, I was there 4 days, morning till night. I didn't take breaks. I didn't go for lunch. I lost some weight, which is great. I didn't stop trying to at least make acquaintance visually, conceptually with the new brands, because that's my main area of interest. I'm interested in new brands. I want to see what else is out there. I get thrilled by creativity and diversification of taste. And like I said, I wasn't there last year on the floor, and so on and so forth. Most new brands had no concept, and I'm going to say this again, slower, so that everybody can see it. Skite. Mims. Mohammed, welcome. Let's see who else. Le Kiwi Coquet joined. Welcome, everyone. We're talking about the fact that one of the most striking realities from Esxence was that the new brands are lacking coherent concepts. They don't have a concept. They have stories. They have packaging. Some of them even have great fragrances. They don't have a concept. In my brain, I cannot associate the smell to a story. I can't measure whether or not the story measures up or down to me, whether or not I can adopt it as part of my internal and emotional reality. They don't have concept, and that's a big deal. So I picked Nissaba because they do have a concept. One of my favorite ones, and I kept telling this to Victor, and I keep saying it and mentioning it everywhere, is that Zoologist is a perfect example of best concept with best execution. The guy woke up one morning and said, I'm going to make perfumes with animals. Do you know why it's good? It's good because it's scalable. It's good because everybody has a favorite. It's good because it's not abstract. It's easy to understand. It's fun. It's exciting. It's collectible. You can always add one more, and many, many other reasons for which their concept is fantastic. But that's an example of coherence, right? Nissaba has a coherent concept as well, and it's built, I'm guessing, from the fact that one of its founders, who is Swiss and has, of course, a Swiss watch, Tissot, I think, is Swiss, right? Name, Mr. Sébastien Tissot, was working before starting this house for a long, long, long time with Firmenich. More specifically, he was working in a department for creating strategies to measure natural ingredient traceability. I'm very happy to see that this is becoming a thing alongside sustainability, purpose-driven brands, ethical approaches, and diversification of personnel palette methodology, and so on and so forth, breaking down monopolies. Apart all of that, which is also fantastic and is happening slowly, traceability is a big deal. Talking about knowing where things come from, and being able to verify that with facts is something that's very important. And I didn't know Firmenich has this. I guess it makes sense from a business perspective. You do want to know where your ingredients are coming from. You do want to know, you can rely on their consistency and uniformity and quality standards and so on and so forth. But I'm happy that this is moved from behind closed doors into the public eye. That means the market is starting to get to the point where accountability is becoming a thing. You can't just say things anymore. You can't just call things and claim stuff and greenwash everything without having something to prove that what you're claiming is true. Now, this guy, again, wakes up one morning and he says, I'm going to create a brand where ingredients can be traced to where they're coming from. The way I'm going to manifest that in practice, in a business practice, is this. My perfumes are going to be based on geographies, and we're going to work with those specific geographies and use them not only as inspiration or source material geographies, but as both. More than that, we're going to make sure that we close the circle by putting back into the community. So that's how Nissaba was born. Why they chose to name it this, I don't know. I think it's a very interesting name. I've heard it because I have parts of my family with Assyrian connections. If you don't know who Assyrians were, they go way back, and they're mixed with Akkadians, Aramaic people, Aramaic speaking tribes. They're a Semitic community from what used to be Mesopotamia. They still exist. Most of them live in Iraq right now, but a lot of them live in Southern and Northern California. So I know the name from them. Nissaba was the goddess borrowed or inherited from the Sumerians of grains and of writing, which I think is fantastic. How these two are connected, I don't know. Maybe because writing used to be done with reeds back in the day, but that's your did you know for today. Dumb Alex, that's so funny. Joined, smell the routine, snip the blah joined. We're not slipping or snipping any blah here. There's a lot of blah blah today. Saramagri says, hello, I was at Esxence. I saw Sebastian and he told me that you were there, but I couldn't find you. Yeah, I was everywhere. The most important person, Rich Mitch, wasn't there, says Ninich. Catch my whiff. Geographic perfumes is something I've been waiting for 5 years or so. Well, it's happening. Nissaba. Yes, the guy was very kind, says Sarah on YouTube. And Ninich talks about Timbuktu and Avignon. Yes, they are masterpieces. However, Timbuktu and Avignon are inspired by places, but their production is in no way connected specifically to those places. So this is the difference. This guy says we're gonna, and this is an example of how the concept translates into process, into the product, and into the whole business persona, if you want. I like it because it's coherent and it's going to make sense to you too once I describe everything that they put into positioning, segmenting their market, and going to the market with this brand, presenting the brand basically. Bon. First and foremost, the name I said is an Sumerian and Assyrian goddess of reeds and cereal and grain and writing, and it's the goddess who protects scribes and writers in general. They believe in recycling concepts, in, again, closing the circle by putting back into the source. And maybe they picked this name, maybe because writing became necessary to keep track of grain stock. Maybe, yeah, it's a good theory. Nicolas Mihai, welcome. Irfan Said Bamajbur, welcome. If you come in, it would be really fun to tell me where you're coming from, where you're signing in from. This is what my Romanian community does. And usually they're quite international as well. So it would be fun to see where we're coming from. All right, Nissaba. We talked about the name. We talked about the principle and the concept of the brand, which is geographies putting back into them. The process that was translated into was this. They decided to pick geographies, research the raw materials that come from those geographies, and use that list as the brief itself. So they took the list of, okay, let's see what Mexico has, or let's see what this forest in Paraguay has. Put the list together, pick a perfumer, give them the list and go, this is your brief. Make sure you include all of these in this order, essentially, and try to keep the cultural associations of the area as well as and as pristine, as correct in the execution as possible. I think that's a very interesting way to go about stuff. Other businesses start with a price point. I want to sell at this, which means I can produce at this, which means this is the palette of ingredients I can work with. They went the other way. This is what we want to work with. Make it work. Speaking of price, somehow all the bottles are the same price, which is very decent. It's $150, $160, something like this. Of course, everything in perfumery is way more expensive than it has to be compared to the production price, but that's the market we're in right now. I think the price is very fair for 100 mils. Okay, bon. So the process involves creating this brief, working with the perfumer, creating the fragrance. The packaging is quite interesting because it involves, I'm sure you can research it, and for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, I can put it up, and there it is. The packaging is very interesting. They put a lot of attention to detail. They want to keep plastic out of the environment. So the top is made of wood, certified wood, sustainable. The pump is removable, and they're planning for launching Kia ora from Otautahi. Is this New Zealand? Memoirs of a Parfumista. Forgive me, I don't know my geography as well as I would love. Hi from Denmark. Aotearoa. Tell me where that is, please. They're planning a launch of refillable process, a process of refilling your bottle. So if you keep it, you can go and that can be refilled. The only plastic they boast of using is the tube of the sprayer. The bottle itself took a lot of research and development work because they wanted to reduce the quantity of glass used to the minimum acceptable for the safety and make sensey standards. So the bottle itself is weighing 80 grams, whereas the liquid is 100 grams, which is the minimum in the industry, they say. And it contains about 15% recycled glass. They have no plastic label, no plastic additions, no synthetic glues or dyes or ink on the bottle. So the name of the brand is engraved onto the bottle, and the name of the fragrance is on this recycled, upcycled, they call it, polyester sleeve that can be removable and replaced if you should choose to. Other things about this bottle, like I said, it can be refilled. And I think that's about it for packaging. Everything else comes in recycled paper, no plastic to be found in their packaging, and they're very, very proud of it. To be honest, it feels quite interesting in the hand because you lift it up and it feels almost like a chemistry set. Hi from Iowa. And Rachel. It's a very simple and very nice bottle. Even the logo, even though I find it slightly cheesy, to be honest, it's an N that does have cuneiform inspiration, growing out of the ground back into the ground, graphic is, and so on and so forth. So that's it with the packaging. The liquid, they have quite a few certifications. They use bio as much as they can, 90% or more natural ingredients for those of you who care about this. And of those natural ingredients, many are certified organic. I even verified the certifications because, again, a lot of greenwashing is happening nowadays, particularly in perfumery. Particularly because the concept does not support the business practices of many of these fake green, fakely sustainable other brands. These guys are for real. And last but not least, and this is the part that I care about the most of the mostest, as many of you know because you've been with me for quite a while. The part that I care about the most is the fact that 5% of the sales, not the profit, but the sales are poured back into the community. New Zealand. Thank you. Kutaf Kaori, welcome. We're talking about the House of Nissaba, which is a discovery from Esxence and the first one in a long series, probably, of houses that I want to dissect with you. 5% of the sales are poured back into the community in the form of lobby for conservation efforts, donations for the worker communities, fair trading, improving work practices for microagricultures and so on, and education for the local children. For example, in Madagascar, most of the money went there. But in other parts of the world where they did localized perfumery, the money, the 5% is split differently based on the local more stringent needs. I think this is important. A lot of brands give back to the community in many different ways, but 5% of sales is quite a big chunk. And the fact that it goes back where it's needed, back where it was generated, really, if you think about it, I think is a very important thing to think about. And I hope others will continue this trend. It's important. It's very important. It's very important. Long live good people. You know what I mean. Bon, so this is why I picked Nissaba. It was a very long introduction, a lot of blah. I know a lot of you don't like that, but hey, now we're going to start talking about the fragrances. The 5 fragrances they launched are localized because I think that's easier to remember them. In Mexico, in Mexico, in Paraguay, and we need to remember this because Paraguay came up quite a few times at Esxence in 2023. The third one is in France, Provence, of course. The fourth is Grandil, which refers to Madagascar. And the last one is Sulawesi, which is in Indonesia. Boom. Others will follow if Nissaba does well. They're not the only ones doing this. So there's a little bit of momentum being built on proper sustainability practices with different areas of focus. The area is so large that different brands pick different things to focus on. One brand, for example, has a sustainability concept. They're the first carbon negative brand, period. And they're the first. No other one was there before them. Certified with proof. They worked with Cornell University. We're going to talk about them at some other point because they need to be mentioned. But what I'm saying is sustainability, diversity, and inclusion are things that are becoming be a be better, do better trend, which makes me very, very happy. Anyway, these are the 5 fragrances that come from Nissaba. I tested 2 others, and to be honest, I don't remember what they were. Also, in full transparency, whatever you smell on the floor, unless you are a hound, unless you are a pro of the pros, unless you are who knows what kind of prodigy who never gets tired, never gets overwhelmed, never gets whatever. How do they ensure against cultural appropriation? It's a good question. They're not using cultural markers of any kind. They're just they're not using local cultural markers. So there's no this is a question that's coming from YouTube by Rachel, who always asks the right questions. How do they ensure against cultural appropriation? I don't, yeah, you know what? I didn't ask them that. For some reason, from their presentation, nothing kind of triggered me. And didn't, it didn't, I guess it didn't come to mind at that point because nothing felt out of place. And their focus is supporting fair trade and local micro agricultures and pouring back into the community. So there was nothing that made me feel I need to explore that direction more, if you know what I mean. And in all of their business, uh, the 4 P's of marketing: product, packaging, promotion, price structure, everything. None of them was using cultural markers or profiting from cultural markers. So I'm not concerned about that for now. If you see anything else, please let me know. It's a very good question, Rachel. Thank you. All right, so these are the 5. I arrange them because I'm freaking Virgo, and some things have to be a certain way in my head, in the order, geographical order from west to the east. Don't ask me why. This is how my eye goes into my brain, where I see the map, because that's how I function. So I'm going to talk about them in the same order, if I may. I've already sprayed them on skin, and I have one of these now because it makes things easy. But because I've already gone through this today, I'm not going to spray on these again because this is nothing. This is so flat. This is so porous. This is so unexciting and so whatever that it makes me feel really bad for all the things I dismissed simply based on blotters in all the testings I've ever done publicly. But the truth is, I can't put everything on skin, and that's that. Now, Mexico was done, if I remember it correctly, by Ilias Hermenides. Yes. Who is Hermenides? Pardon. Who is a Firmenish long timer. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he was the first ever perfumer to be hired at Firmenish. And because Mr. Tissot works there, he has connections. He knows some people. His people know some people, and those people called other people. And he got Mr. Ilias to create his first fragrance. Okay, I'm going to spray it again on the hand. Mexico is called Tierra Maya, the Maya land. Thank you very much for calling it that and not something else. Tierra Maya is they described it as a collection of, or as a fragrance honoring, I believe, some spice and Peru balsam. And it does. It's a very spicy concoction, everything under the sun on it and with it. It's very surprising to the nose because this is not what I would have expected from a Swiss house, knowing what everything else happened in that part of the world. Oh, hi, Peter. Yay! I missed you. Fragrance View just logged in. Okay, this is not a Peru balsam exercise. This is not a cardamom or whatever they declared. This, in fact, is very similar in a more modern, more transparent way to what used to happen in Italian gourmand perfumery in the 90s. More specifically, this reminds me of Missoni Gianduia, if any of you were lucky enough to sniff that. So the reaction, the result, I think at least on my skin, is a spicy chocolate. Not Swiss chocolate, not French chocolate. It's Mexican chocolate. You imagine this having, yes, it does go a little bit in the there's some of the spicy roses from Tower, but with more restraint. Interesting you named that. Yeah, I didn't think about it, but you're right on the money. Um very slightly chili chocolate. Yes. Chili chocolate, almost you could easily imagine this as a fermented chocolate drink. The way you read descriptions of what was happening in the 1600s, where chocolate and cocoa were chewed and spat and left to ferment with many, many spices. Something fell in my house and I'm alone. That's fun. I hear you. Come tonight. Stuff is falling around me all the time. Somebody's trying to tell me something. Um Spicy, fermented, heavy, really deep, almost acrid chili chocolate with a whiff of orange, definitely cardamom, a lot of cinnamon, just enough, a bit of a tang, very tiny. The line between too much and just enough is very thin, and this is straddling it perfectly. No, not much tonka, but I do smell something that assembles like a Mexican vanilla, a little bit tannic, leathery, the vanilla itself. A lot of nutmeg, a lot of clove without it being overbearing. Probably some ambrette in the back because there's a fluffiness to it. It's like one of those again. I don't know if this was the intention, but it's one of those foamed chili chocolates. Slightly dusty, muddy at the same time. Honey, and the first time I applied it, a little tinge of grapes after they've been pressed for wine. The wine grapes smell differently, and when they're pressed with their green parts and the seeds and everything else, there's a little bit of astringency that is different than other seed, other green, other. It's very hard to explain. It's not oily either. It's you feel like if you put it on your skin, it's going to burn a little bit. That kind of green. But that's part of the the yes must. Yeah, a little bit of must. So this is a very happy fragrance. I find it well executed. I find it balanced. I find it in your face. It's loud, than I expected the Swiss fragrance to be, but it's very fun. You want to smell it. There's no overcomplication. Like an oversteeped tea, yes. A little bit. Yeah. That type of astringency. Thank you. I love talking to you guys. See, this is fantastic. So much better than recording on your own. God. It's it's bright. There's some rose. I think the rose is a little bit dosed in a way that I wouldn't. Um some stickiness, a little bit of honey, propolis maybe, probably Peru balsam, probably that's where it's coming from anyway. But very fun. Yes. Yeah. Mexican mole negro. And that is my friends. Tierra Maya. Good to remember. The next one is Chaco. Chaco is part of the impenetrable forest in Paraguay. Lasting, well, let's baseline that. Brenda on Instagram is asking, is it lasting? What do you call lasting? I need to know. Uh, I call lasting anything after 3 hours or anything 3 hours and up. If you are looking for 12 hours, this probably ain't it, even though today is the first time I tested very early in the morning, mid AM, and then now at 2:37. So I do have leftovers from the other ones, not as strong as somebody who wants nuclear projection and forever status to have. But to me, that's fine. That's why I said let's baseline this one. The second one is called Chaco. As I said, Chaco is an area in Paraguay, and for some odd reason, Paraguay, which doesn't ever come up, ever, was present in concepts, names, sources, mentions, marketing, and so on, at least 3 times at Esxence, which to me stands out. I'm a pattern seer. Three doesn't, three of anything, a pattern doesn't make, but it's way more than zero. So all of a sudden, 3 Paraguays is something. Let's keep an eye on that. Paraguay has the second largest tropical forest in Latin America's surface wise. Of course, the first one is Amazon. Amazon is bigger than anything else. But unlike Amazon, which has a network of rivers, Paraguay is very compact. That's why it's called the impenetrable forest, which is kind of a good concept to ponder. It's sticking it to anybody who wants to penetrate, if you want. Hi, time to mask up. If you sign in now, please tell us where you're coming from as well. It's kind of fun to see where everybody's logging in from. Chaco is an exercise in lemony facets. Not as exciting, but very bright. Makes me think of a bath in petit grain with of leaves and branches, sticks and leaves of something. Hi, Mountain Cat. It's very lemony. It's very bright. I hate this word, but unfortunately, it's one of the best that we can have. There's a ton of bergamot, and it feels like several layers of lemon. There's lemon peel, lemon flower, which I absolutely adore, without it being flowery at all. Lemon zest and on the top of the smells like oranges, smells like mandarin flower, smells like pine for some reason. I will wear that Chaco during my South American trip in 2025, Peru, Bolivia, Chile. Bravo. Very cedary. It smelled like this in Morocco. You drive through mountains, it kind of smells like this. There's a stickiness in the air that's piney and salty at the same time. A little bit, yeah, there's a lot of petit grain in this. And a lot of guayac. Now, I mentioned in the beginning of this video that you walked into on the floor at Esxence and everything was guayacol. Everything was sharp and smoky. Everything was out of balance. Everything was in your face. It was cutting. It was attacking all the one's nostrils. This is not it. The Gaillac here is almost milky. It's satiny somehow. It has texture. It's very nice, and I'm very very happy for this because it feels like it would have been very easy to go the other way. Not my favorite of the line, but very well executed. It's done by a perfumer called Alexandra Monet. Monet, like the painter, like impressionistic painter. Um, Easy. It's an easy agrumi thing. Now, the next one was a definite surprise for me. I would put it second in top three for this house. Um, is it? No. This is the third. This is the first in this house. Best of hashtag if you want. And I think it's in top 10 discoveries at Esxence, not because the fragrance conforms to my aesthetic, but because it brings something new to an otherwise very often beaten path. We're going to talk about Provence now, and this is, yeah, probably top 10. Disclaimer, I don't like lavender. Lavender hates me. Um, I'm slightly bored with lavender, even though I shouldn't be. But seriously, lavender has been done many, many times over. Um, the way it combines, you all know. The way it's been used historically, you all know. I don't want to talk about it. I don't wanna. But top 10, probably. I'll think about it, but I right now off the top of my head, I would put it there. Is Provence with the lavender centric fragrance from Nissaba. Why do I like it? I even like the dry down. It's an aromatic of a different kind. It's a minty lavender. Mint, not from the lavender itself. You know how lavender can get metallic and minty sometimes, depending on application. This is mint, and it takes you very quickly through tobacco flower, new tobacco, um, white tea, some artemisia, some caper buds, almost greenery in the back, almost like dandelion buds. I don't know if you've ever, but spearmint for real. Something oily in the back, almost like immortelle. A lot of nutmeg here, a lot of pepper here. In the dry down, it settles slightly smoky and tarry. It sometimes makes me think of birch water. I don't know if you live in the eastern parts of this world, you probably know that particularly in World War II, birch water was what saved a lot of people from famine because it's very rich in certain um, nutrients and certain vitamins. Vitamin C saved them from scurvy and so on and so forth. But a lot of times during times of famine, people would water would scratch birch trees to drink that juice. It has a particular odd green but malty, a little bit smoky too, type of impression on the nose, and a very silky smooth um, texture. It's very odd, very particular. It's like life water. So this is that kind of aromatic. It's a different kind of lavender. I'm very happy to have discovered it. I actually didn't plan to go to Nissaba, but the reviewers I was with were trying to visit another house that was just across the aisle, and I was sitting there, kind of overwhelmed with all the possibilities. I didn't want to go with them, and then so I turned right to go somewhere, saw these guys, started talking to them, and that was that. After these people were done testing, they came to my booth, the Nissaba booth, and I gave them the lavender, and all of them, not lavender lovers, went like this because it's new. It's a new application of lavender. Um, it smells like sometimes I get whiffs of silk, corn silk. It smells a particular way. Very similar to that, there's a plant that I don't know what it's called in English, but it's a medicinal plant that usually grows in marshes. It looks like a tall reed stem with filament leaf like structures opening like an umbrella every segment. That smells a certain way. And this is very much in that vein. So it's a very different aromatic. It's a very different lavender. And for a lifetime of smelling lavender applications in every single declination and combination possible, this was a good surprise. So, yep, marshmallow root. I don't know what that is in English. I need to look it up. Lelu, hello from Berlin. Welcome. Willkommen. This is done by Sebastian Cresp. Now, I don't know if this Mr. Sebastian, he looks young. I don't know if he's the son of said very good. Danke. Hello, Lelu. Oh, sorry. My people are talking amongst themselves. I sillily think they're talking to me, so I'm answering their questions for one another. Anyway, I don't know if Sebastien Cresp is the son of Olivier Cresp or not. If he does, he has a legacy. But it's very surprising that he produced this instead of something else. So yeah, one of the top discoveries from Esxence. Not my jam, not my fragrance, but I'm not their people. But very well made, well executed, and new in a life and sea of already done, declined, conjugated. You know what I mean? Lavenders. Hi, JJ. And Philly Andre, welcome. If you're only now signing in, tell us where you're coming from, please. All right. So that was number 3 from the House of Nissaba. And I'm presenting House of Nissaba. You know why? Because they, unlike other houses, have a concept. Concept is important, folks. All right. So we talked about the Mexican variety. We talked about Paraguay. We talked about France. And now we're going to move on to the Grand Deal. This was a surprise as well. Probably my second choice. Again, not something that I usually favor in perfumery. But it's about Madagascar, and very, very, not surprisingly, very formulaically, call it whatever you want, this is indeed a vanilla. Now, vanilla's been done, just like lavender, to the death of it and all of us. We're all sick and tired of vanillas. We're sick and tired of smelling vanillas in other things. But this vanilla is a vanilla. There are very few that are different in this lifetime that I know of. This vanilla replicates in accord the Mexican vanilla I've been looking for forever and ever and ever. I absolutely adore Mexican vanilla. I absolutely crave Mexican vanilla absolute. It's completely different from what you get from other vanilla materials. Vanilla is native to Mexico. Vanilla almost disappeared in Mexico because vanilla needs specific conditions to grow, including natural fertilization and natural pollination, which in Madagascar, in order for it to be done artificially but by hand, led to vanilla distributing and being hybridized in different ways with different results. Madagascar vanilla is not the best vanilla. Tahiti vanilla is not the best vanilla, in my humble opinion. The best vanilla is, or the best vanilla material to my nose and to my aesthetic sensibilities and to my creative imagination, is the vanilla absolute that comes from Mexico. This in fragrance replicates exactly that, which is happy times for me. Happy times for me. All right. So this is what I smell. I smell a boozy top. Yeah, I know. Vanilla is not traditionally cured. Either. There's a boozy top. There's a very metallic patchouli, the kind that almost goes to smell like blueberries. You know, there's a patchouli facet that goes into blueberries. This is it. Tannins, tea, oversteeped tea, that kind of sensation under um, the tongue, bark, dirt ish, more like clay. It's very spicy. It's very woody at the same time. I smell Palo Santo in this as well. Clove again. Somebody really likes that clove, and whoever their evaluator is, they really love the clove. But it's balanced. Eugenol and cloves and can be so overbearing. This is really balanced. Pepper, pepper, pepper. Very slight floral tinge, but it's very nondescript to my nose at least. It goes a little bit towards like yellow garden flowers, like honeysuckle, like in that direction. Although there's a little bit of stink, kind of like narcissus materials. Greetings from Armenia. Nice. Hi. Oh yeah, hi. You're there with Al. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'll. You tell me. We exchange emails. Gayak again. Again, well calibrated. Hmm. Metal. There's a metal tinge in there. In other words, this is happy times. More intense, a little bit sharper than you would expect. Definitely more party in your nose than what you would think a Swiss house will come up with. It's vocal, Frank Vocal, the same one who does or used to do Le Labos, nomenclature, and so on. You know his style. Very lab created style. Tigran Petrosian. Great, great exercise. A little bit velvety, a little bit boozy. It's a great exercise. Again, not I wouldn't put it on the same level as Provence because it's not reinventing vanilla. This smell has been smelt before. Creatively, it's not an exercise. Technically, it's an exercise because to my nose, it ended up in something that I consider to be good. You might not like it. It's not necessarily something to walk around surrounded by. I do have a lot of vanillas. I don't wear them, but I do like to sniff them. I like to keep them for reference, as you know, as you probably all do. It's not like the other ones I have. It's not clean. It's rather dirty. But it's not reinventing vanillas. But it's recreating in accord a smell. Yes. No, I didn't smell them in Essence. I smelled them separately. I ordered the kit and I think I included one of them at some point in top newcomers. I got a lot of backlash for that, but no, I did not smell them at Essence. So if they have anything new, I wouldn't know. I figured I know the house. I've talked about the house. I need to do research in other directions. So this was the vanilla. Good exercise. The last fragrance I want to talk about. Oh, it's been quite a. I was thinking I'm going to do this in 30 minutes. Listen to me. No, no, no. Sulawesi. Sulawesi is Indonesia. This of all feels the least balanced, the least in accordance with the rest of the concept. It's very sharp. Um, it's a okay. It's a patchouli. It makes me think of something that I smelled, maybe ligno or something Jeroboam like. Accendis had a few in the beginning when they first launched. That's screechy. It's not very screechy. The sharp cutting patchouli, clove, nutmeg, gaiac base or mix that is kind of drowning out everything else. It settles quite well, and it goes a little bit more textural, a little bit more muted, a more candid wood if you want. But there's supposed to be a vetiver in there that I don't feel in any shape or form. There's supposed to be some resinous notes in there that I don't feel, not even for support. It's just not on par with the other ones. Or maybe I'm overly sensitive to certain things, but this is not happy times. Unfortunately, I would drop this one from the collection. If it was up to me, I probably would have executed differently because I would have loved a new patchouli. It's not. So that's it. We talked about all five. The patchouli is nice. The same zingy metallic blueberry-ish patchouli in whatever combination they put it. That's the impression, the end impression. But this is it. The five from Nissaba, a house with a good concept, with good practices and coherence between what they created as a storyline and the execution at business, product, packaging, and methodology and marketing levels. Um, to buy, I would recommend at least the testing kit. I was talking to some people today, and they said, "Yeah, it's a different vanilla, exactly." Um, the Perfume Temple, welcome. I would recommend getting the kit. I think it's $27 or something, or euro, and I believe somebody was saying with some 10% whatever first time buying, free shipping or something, it's about 20 something, $30, which I think is fine for a testing kit given how expensive others are. Oh, one thing, this reminds me of the first iteration, so Sulawesi, the first iteration of Shinu Kopala, but more intense. Of course, as I said that, it's starting to settle and it's actually nice. God damn it. All right, try the kit. Nobody's paying me. Nobody's sponsoring me. I am not affiliated. If you buy, nothing will come back to me. Don't worry. Nobody's profiting from you. I don't have combinations and permutations. Nissaba. If you test them, come back and tell me what you think of them. And this is it, folks. Like, share, subscribe, or don't. It's the same thing. I'll keep doing what I do. We're going to try to make this into a series, probably on Tuesdays, probably about this time. I know it's not convenient for most people, but this is what I can do with my job, family, kid, school, and other projects. Thank you. And I'm going to leave you. Please say it with me. Wherever you make, see, I'm lacking exercise. Wherever you go, make it better. That's what I was trying to say. Wherever you go, make it better. That's it. Bye. I'll see you next week. Let's see if I know how to turn this off. Do I know how to turn this off? I don't know how to turn this off. Catch my whiff. You're most welcome. And broadcast here.